What do you get when whales are stacking Bitcoin, ETF buyers are sitting in profit, and France, yes, France, suddenly becomes a crypto powerhouse? Well, you get a market that's heating up behind the scenes all the more. So, despite today's price action, which in my opinion is still hanging on strong, we'll see Bitcoin just broke out of a 3-month downtrend, bouncing off what was a long-awaited year-long support line. And whales, they're scooping up Bitcoin at the fastest rate since August. ETF holders are sitting at a 17% gain, and France just became the first European nation to add Bitcoin to its corporate treasury fund and to fund altcoin development. Meanwhile, in the real world, US tariffs are back, no surprise. GDP forecasts are turning negative, although I don't know why. And apparently investor sentiment is at an all-time low. So in this video, I'm gonna lay it all out for you, from Bitcoin's next move to macro red flags and what I think about both. So if you're still on the sidelines, now might be a good time to jump in. But once again, only if you're going to be following the market closely. Hello guys, my name is Jessica and I'm so happy you're here and found my channel or have been following me regularly. You have no idea how much it means to me and how much it encourages me to keep going. So without further ado, let's jump into today's content. Okay, so checking out Bitcoin's price as we do, we're sitting at about $85,000 and some change of a Bitcoin. This is still, considering all the tariffs news that I just told you about, the lack of uncertainty between Russia and Ukraine, this is still considered a strong BTC. So that's all we're going to say here, and we're going to keep moving forward. We have Nick, who's the CEO and founder, or co-founder, sorry, of Coin Bureau, who shares this chart with us and basically has 3 key things to say. So he says, 1, if you observe it closely, we have Bitcoin that broke out of a 3-month downtrend. So this is exciting. So watch this line here that's cutting across the page and how it traces Bitcoin's movement up and out of this downward motion, double-lined sort of channel. Sideways, downward, sideways trending. Anyway, this is bullish because Bitcoin broke out of this downward trend. As I said, we also broke out of the RSI downtrend, which you can see displayed here down below. And we're now trading above the 200-day moving average, which is one of the key reasons I believe Bitcoin is breaking out nice and strong and steady. Because remember, we're still recovering from all of the hype from Trump's inauguration. Remember, he was going to be the first Bitcoin president, and he was going to kick out Gary Gensler, and he was going to solve inflation and all these things. So his campaign, in many ways, rallied the market. I don't want to say artificially, but it was a rally, okay? So much of the downward motion that we've seen and we see here on the chart was basically the market shaking that off, even though the news of tariffs did have a big impact on Bitcoin's price. It nevertheless fell in within the larger narrative of the market needing to take a sigh of relief in shaking off that sort of inflated rally. But anyway, that's my non-trader language in explaining what's going on here. What else? So if we take a look at Bitcoin's ETF inflows, we'll see that we ended on another positive note yesterday, March 27th. We ended with inflows of $89 million coming into the Bitcoin ETFs. So this is a continued strong signal from the institutional funds on Bitcoin being a good investment option during these turbulent times in the market. So this is an excellent, excellent signal coming to us from the top. Smart old money. What else? So let's take a look at what Crypto Quant shares here with us. And they basically explain that Bitcoin's ETFs are at a critical turning point. And they say that institutions are reshuffling and de-risking due to macro uncertainty with a major impact on Bitcoin. But if you take a look at what we're seeing here, you can see that we've been on a positive trend, uptrend. We're down here where I'm circling. So yes, the last column here is not as high as the previous green candle, so to speak, but it's still green. And if the pattern were to repeat itself, you would see that ETF inflows should increase from here. But the point is that the Bitcoin ETF inflows have been on a steady positive trend now for, I would say, a couple weeks now. So this is great. And what Crypto Quant goes on to explain throughout his thread here, and you can go follow them, Crypto Quant, and go read this thread, you would see that basically what they're getting at is they're saying that ETF holders are sitting on average unrealized profits of about 17%, with the realized price at 72,546 and spot trading around 87,000. So the interpretation of all of this, mind you, is that despite recent volatility, ETF holders are in green, which is a very bullish signal for the market, unless selling intensifies, of course. So selling would intensify, for instance, if there's some huge and tremendous negative news, say, I don't know, this war situation doesn't get resolved, or there's some big announcement. We know that the market reacts to fear and uncertainty. So at this point, we're still waiting to hear what the resolution will be between Russia and Ukraine. And we do have these tariffs kicking off, which we're going to get into here in a second. So that's already been worked in and priced into the market. The tariffs, I believe, that's not going to hit the market. I don't think so. This is my opinion, my educated opinion. But at this point, it's not new news. Think about it, right? So I believe the tariffs have already been priced into the market. And I think we would have to see some new and traumatic news, which I don't think is going to happen, to really, I think, affect the Bitcoin ETF inflows at this point. And we can also see that the fear and greed index, as of now, as I zoom in, is at 44. Now, how exactly this is calculated, I don't know, but I know that this is a metric and you can find it on CoinGecko or like CoinMarketCap. It's very common sort of fear and greed indicator you can find pretty much on almost all crypto trading tools. Or anyway, so we're not at an extreme fear anymore, but which is good, because if we were in extreme fear, that would be a negative sign for upcoming Bitcoin and crypto movement and momentum, right? And bullishness in the market. But the fact that we are still in some fear does speak of the fact that we're not near the top. Like we're at the bottom. So from here, we can only go up, right? So that is how you process this information or take it into account, right? So what else is going on that we can add up to all of the indicators that we're going to take into consideration that inform our opinion of how the market is going to be reacting here soon, is you would see that according to Cointelegraph, whales, which are really rich, investors, have added, they're still buying, they're still accumulating Bitcoin. They've added 129,000 BTC Bitcoin since March 11th. So smart money is still scooping. I feel like I've been bringing you this news every day this week and for the last couple weeks. And if we're to succeed as investors, then we have to follow smart money. That's how you learn. And I've said it before, so sorry if I'm repeating it again, but that is how you learn. And there's always someone better than you. So if the whales, if smart money is not scared of these market conditions and they're continuing to buy Bitcoin, it's because they obviously know and believe and have great confidence, as do I, that Bitcoin is going to continue to increase in value now and forevermore. Like we're going to see a Bitcoin at $1 million someday. We do have some people calling even for a Bitcoin this cycle, even though many believe, and I also believe, starting to believe that we're breaking away from the 4-year traditional Bitcoin and crypto bull run cycle. So yes, this is a whole conversation in and of its own. If you're new to crypto, then hang tight for my course. I'm hoping it'll all be live next week, including my new website, which I'm very excited to share with you. So anyway, whales are still accumulating. And that's because Bitcoin is fundamentally the new digital gold. It's even its own category of its own, because people can even fake gold, right? You know that there's a standard on how you measure gold, like a gold block, like per dimension, how you weigh it and how much it should weigh. exactly in order to know if it's gold. So there are ways of knowing, but people are smart. So at this point, I don't know what happened. I thought that President Trump or some of his government cabinet members were supposed to be counting how much gold we have at Fort Knox, because I don't think that's been done in a very, very long time. So anyway, gold is not, it does not have a limited supply, right? We're still mining gold. Whereas, and there's like asteroids. I have a friend of mine, actually, I interviewed her on my other channel, The Jessica Show, that I'm actually going to be reviving to be talking about my spiritual life and experiences with plant medicine, experience with the church and leaving the church, and how I am and now practice as a believer. And anyway, it's going to be a channel basically just dedicated to this whole sort of internal process and journey I've been on in my life that ultimately brought me to crypto. And that's why I want to share it. Also, because they're topics that are quite quote unquote taboo. No one really wants to actually talk about all these little details. So anyway, I interviewed Julie on this channel, and she is into, was it called? Astro mining. And long story short, basically her company goes to outer space and they mine asteroids, and they find and bring all sorts of minerals back to Earth, because we're stripping the planet of our minerals and oil, while there's unlimited amounts of minerals and metals in space. So there is not a limited supply of gold or precious metals, or, in the world and in the universe. Whereas there is literally only 21 million Bitcoin ever, because it's been hard coded into an immutable program. So Bitcoin, I would say, is even more valuable than gold, but that's a whole topic of its own. So anyway, whales are stacking, and that's all you need to know from here, even though I derailed. So what else? Here we have shared with us. Okay, this is like, I feel like every day there's some drama or some really big juicy news in the crypto world. It's just part of how it is for us on the bleeding edge of technology and commerce. You would see, as you can see here on my screen, the blockchain group in France has acquired 580 Bitcoin, valued at 47.3 million euros. So it's Europe's first company to build a Bitcoin treasury, and it will not be the last, guys. And this is amazing. Think of it as the first domino in the whole domino effect. This is incredible. So congratulations to the blockchain group. Congratulations to France for leading the way. And that's not all. Let's see, what else? Also, the French state bank, BPIFRANCE, builds a fund to buy cryptocurrencies. So they're taking it a step further. See, isn't it so amazing? Like, this is why we have to support Trump as president, because he's the first Bitcoin president in all of history. That's how he's going to go down in history. And with him proposing, the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, and then the crypto fund or the sovereign wealth fund. Remember, I was telling you, like, the whole world, and you probably already knew this, the whole world is listening and watching the US. The US sets the pace in so many ways for the rest of the world. So we can expect to see so much more news like this. But congratulations to BPI France. I'm actually going to be dubbing my channel in French as well. I just dubbed it into Spanish. I'll link it below. So yes, I'll be using AI for it, although I do speak Spanish natively since I'm from Bolivia, and I do speak French fluently as well since I lived there for 3 years. But anyway, so I'm going to be expanding. It's so funny. I'm seeing this news like the day after I decided to dub my channel. So hopefully I'll do an interview here soon in French, or be able to I'll definitely be offering my course in French as well, and Spanish. So what else is going on, guys? Enough of the personal jibber jabber, but we can see here, shared by Kobesi Letter, that President Trump's Liberation Day, as he dubbed it, right, April 2nd, when all these tariffs get enacted and enforced, they're going to now include, this is not new news, but this is like an official announcement to you, a 25% tariff on all cars and parts not made in the US. So many are devastated. And of course, like, if you were to go read the Kobesi Letter in this whole thread, it's quite long. I won't read it for it. As they're saying here, this could add up to $12,500 per vehicle. Because even if the car is manufactured in the US, as the thread goes on to say, if any parts were created and imported from other countries, then those parts would have a tariff, and that'd be added into the sum of the car's price. Now, mind you, okay, they're going to get creative and they're going to find ways of giving discounts to customers to stay afloat, most likely, right? Business owners have to get creative. So anyway, the market is not liking this very much. You can see it all over the news. I was, just doing my research as I do all the time on what's going on, following and hearing what's going on different news channels. And these tariffs do not necessarily don't imply inflation, and they don't imply prices raised across the board, right? There's actually a really great interview on the All In podcast with Howard Lutnick, interviewed by Chamath Palihapitiya, and the other host, his name always escapes me, but he's like the nerdy, I mean it in the best way, I love nerds. He's like the nerdy, like science guy, and they interview Howard Lutnick, and he gives a really good explanation of what's going on and the impact the tariffs are going to have. And the way he explains it is when you go to the store, as a consumer, there's going to be like, say, 2 boxes of cereal, right? And like one, sure, will go up, I don't know, 25% as we see here. But I don't know what the tariffs will be on like food, for instance. It depends on where the food's coming from that you want to buy. But sure, certain foreign products will be significantly more expensive, up to 25%. But the product, there's going to be other comparable products available for everything. And the comparable products are going to be cheaper, significantly cheaper. So it doesn't necessarily force everyone to have to spend more. It simply is going to put consumers in a position to have to pick the American produced product because the foreign produced product will be 25% more expensive. Do you see what I mean? So anyone who's not really done their research, and I don't blame them because it does take a lot of time and like reading and constantly being plugged in to know, and that's why I bring it to you. So just so you know, and you can go do your own research, of course, but it's not going to necessarily force everybody to spend more on products. It's only going to make you spend more if you're choosing to buy the foreign good. And ultimately, this is a transitionary period. And we know that key goods and services in the US, key metrics have significantly improved. Like unemployment is down, price of gas is way down, price of eggs is down. There's, so many new jobs. I'll get data for you in my next show on Monday. But there have been so many new jobs created, so many factories. I believe like the world's largest chip producers coming back to the US to produce their chips here, which are used for technology and I believe AI as well. So there's a lot of good happening in the market. You have to just be mindful where you're getting your news from, because if it's like, a left-leaning media source or highly Democratic-leaning media source or an anti-Trump-leaning media source, then it's going to frame the news in a very negative way. That's why you have to do your own research. That's why I'll also tell you what my information, like how it reads, Anyway, on the positive side of things, now transitioning away from this whole tariff business, you would see that, as I have highlighted here, there was this IRS DeFi broker rule that was basically making decentralized protocols in crypto fall under forcefully the broker rule that requires decentralized companies in crypto to disclose all this information on their customers and like all of this information. I took some notes here so I could read it exactly. So as my notes say, right, this expansion, right, of the definition broker to include decentralized finance platforms would have required DeFi platforms to report detailed information about their users' transactions to the IRS, similar to the reporting obligations of traditional financial brokers and centralized cryptocurrency exchanges. So it was just not accurate. It was just not correct. So anyway, this was voted against yesterday. This is fantastic. And so now this just needs to be signed off by Trump himself, but he's already previously mentioned like favorable comments towards getting rid of this IRS DeFi rule. So that's great. That's just great for the crypto market. It helps DeFi protocols keep advancing without all this crippling, unjustified rules. So what else? We have Trump's SEC pick, who we know is Paul Atkins. This has not been confirmed yet, but he's most likely going to get voted in. They just always grill them first. I don't know if you saw that with the other cabinet members, but they always grill them first. So anyway, he said that many aspects of the former SEC chief, Gary Gensler's tenure, were disturbing. So anyway, we can expect to see and hear more from him coming up here soon. But so far, this is great. He is saying basically that he wants to make digital assets a top priority as a pro crypto push gains steam. So let's keep rooting for him and pray that he gets into this powerful position, which would help the whole crypto market. So anyway, I'm just letting you know that hopefully he gets confirmed soon. And then now, as you can see on my screen here, we have the U.S. The U.S.'s open interest now exceeding the defense spending. So this basically, speaks of unsustainable debt growth, which is bullish for Bitcoin as a hedge against fiscal instability is what this says. And technically, it's a little bit of a recession warning as well. But we know that we have Doge working on it aggressively. We know that we have basically the Fed in a position, or Congress in a position of having to raise the debt ceiling to allow for Trump's administration, Scott Bessent, hopefully Paul Atkins coming in. We need to give our current administration some time to fix the market. So a lot of what you see here should not be alarming. It's just a snapshot of where we are right now. And let's see how things play out. But as you've noticed, if you've been following my channel and following the news, the market is moving very fast. The world is moving very, very fast right now. So I don't suspect we're going to stay in this recession warning zone very long. Although these times transitions are always turbulent, right? Think about the times you move house, you've moved homes, packing, moving, trying to keep up with work, trying to keep up with stuff, but also moving. Transitions in general are always turbulent times, but they can be transitions for the better. And if you're going somewhere better, then your transition should not be so painful, if you remember that. So I'd hope you remember that. I know that overall we're going to be so okay. These are the most exciting days I believe humanity's ever lived through. This is one of the most exciting revolutions humanity's ever experienced. So what else? We also, so this isn't the best type news once again to share with you, but it's just a snapshot in time. And then once again, we don't know how they get their data. It's just crazy to me that, the way a lot of the market is being interpreted despite all of the great changes that are also happening in the market. So anyway, as of now, long story short, we have Atlanta Fed saying that flashing a recession signal, I guess. So the latest update shows GDP contraction forecast in the market. And so markets apparently may begin to price in slower growth is what is being said here. So that is one side of the coin, right, of how the market feels right now with all this uncertainty in the air. And then once again here, shared by Kobesi Letter, 44% of Americans now expect lower stock prices over the next 12 months, which we can't, come on, does the average American follow the market closely and know what factors are really going to affect the market? No, they watch the news. They watch Fox News and CNN, which have a really small, they're not doing so good. That's why I forget which channel was it. Was it CNN that was up for sale and Elon Musk was joking about buying it? I forget which media channel it is, but times are changing and traditional news is on the way out. And in the meantime, the everyday American that spends most of their time at a 9-to-5 job and doesn't own their time and they don't really know what's going on in the market, although they are the market at the same time. Their sentiment does get reflected in the market. So as of now, you should know that this is how, 44% of Americans feel a little down about the market because they see so much change going on. And once again, the market doesn't like fear and uncertainty. But what everyone should know, these 44% of Americans, is that we have phenomenal leaders in the White House, a cabinet that has been compared to the X-Men. Okay, that's how incredible the leaders are that Trump has surrounded himself with, market people. They know how to move markets. So I'm not alarmed by what is going on right now in the market, and I'd hope you're not either. I hope you're just down for the ride, maybe eating some popcorn along the way, just doing what you got to do, working and trying to buy as much Bitcoin as you possibly can. And that's it. Simple, right? And then to start wrapping up today's show, you would see that, as shared here by a bar chart, that the US dollar index, the DXY, has seen its worst month since November. So basically, the US dollar index is doing poorly because we know inflation is off the charts, which is a good case for Bitcoin. This is why Bitcoin is so important. This is why the Bitcoin strategic reserve is so important. This is why everything that Donald Trump is pushing for is so important. But mainly, this is why Bitcoin is important. This is why you need to go buy Bitcoin. And this is ultimately good for the crypto market because it's going to make investors that have their money working in the market feel like, maybe I should take it out. Maybe I should put it in, Bitcoin, or even gamble a little bit in the crypto market because it's going to do much better, or the odds are much better anyway than keeping it in dollar form, right? So ultimately, it's good for the crypto market. And then lastly, to wrap it up, as has been the news for the last few days, you would see that USDC, which is one of the main stable coins, their market cap keeps growing, and it's officially exceeded $60 billion for the first time ever. And we're so early, as I was saying in yesterday's video, we're so early, and this is what we are seeing already. So guys, that is a wrap for today's video and for this week's content. I hope you have a sense of what's going on in the market. I hope you're not scared of all the waves and turbulence and tariffs. And mind you, the tariffs have already been priced into the market anyway. Just stay steady. Keep doing what you got to do. Take care of yourself. Sleep well, eat well, take your vitamins, work out, keep educating yourself. I hope you keep tuning into my channel because I'll be here every day, Monday through Friday, sharing with you what I learn because this is what I'm obsessed with. And I'm always in the trenches of what's going on in politics and in the market. And I will share what I learn with you so you know what's going on. But in the meantime, just buy Bitcoin. That's it. Some USDC, some USDT, some Ondos, some Chainlink. That's it. Nice and steady does it. So take care, and I will catch you guys here in my video on Monday. Ciao.